Well, you can see my sweet potato patch, some of it. It's got a lot of weeds in it, and well, it's time to harvest. I've been probing around and looking for those sweet potatoes to bulk up, and I found a few of them in there. So let me talk about sweet potatoes for a little bit. Sweet potatoes are a root. They're technically not a tuber, but they kind of perform like a tuber. There's a lot of different opinions on when to harvest a sweet potato. A lot of folks say that you wait until just before your first frost and your leaves will start dying back and turning yellow. That's the case with regular potatoes. Indeed, you harvest them at a fixed point, but a sweet potato, especially in my climate, can act as a perennial and they'll just grow year long. My sweet potatoes, even right now in the middle of the fall, are still putting on flowers and blossoms, and there's very little yellowing of the leaves. These sweet potatoes will continue to grow. Even if the frost knocks them back, they'll continue to grow underground. And so to know when to harvest sweet potatoes in a warm climate like I have here, you just got to probe around and see if you've got any potatoes building up and any bulk going on down there. And so that's what I've been doing. I've been probing around with my hands in the dirt and finding some roots. Now, because my sweet potatoes are always growing here and always expanding, there's a lot of roots that haven't bulked up yet that we'll just have to either leave behind or clean out. And a lot of those roots are going to come back next year and they're going to keep on growing. So we'll have volunteers all over the garden. We began our sweet potatoes as slips. We took our seed stock, our little tubers that were too small to eat, and we put them in these pots here and let them grow these slips. And then you break the slips off and make sure you've got some good roots. And I put some in these containers and this really loose soil. This was my first harvest, actually. And then these are the ones that we're harvesting today when I put them into the garden bed. Sweet potatoes are going to take you about 120 days minimum to come to fruition before you get a crop. 120 days minimum. Around here, I find that it takes a little bit longer. These were planted at the beginning of June. Some of them were planted at the end of May, but they've been in the ground since June, and, well, let's go harvest. First things first, I'm going to go through and cut all these vines with my clippers. You could mow it down if you wanted to, but this will help me see where I originally planted my slips. All of this material, the sweet potato vine, and all these leaves, the leaves of course are edible. If you're into that, you can keep these and harvest a lot of the leaves, but I don't eat sweet potato leaves, so they go in the compost. Very nutritious leaves, very nutritious plants here, so everything that's in these plants will be recycled into the garden. If you follow my channel, you know there's a lot of weeds in this garden bed, and that's unfortunate. Tons of weeds in here, and well, they've put down seeds. I can see lots of weed seeds right there. So I'm trying to separate out that kind of material from what's going in the compost pile. I don't want to just compound my problems. Now I can see a little bit better where my slips were planted, and I'll know where to dig. There's my trowel. I was looking for this. Funny what you find when you clear out your beds, huh? Now, sweet potatoes will root themselves along the vine, and I've got sweet potatoes probably growing in my pathway here. So, bonus food, if you want to look at it that way. Alright, that's good enough. Now we can start pulling up sweet potatoes. Okay, I'm going to be using some digging tools like this trowel, my shovel. I'm not going to use a fork. I've already tried the fork, and while it's makes quick work of digging these sweet potatoes, you damage them too. So what you want to do is find where you planted your slip. Here's my slip. And sweet potatoes grow down, unlike a regular potato which tends to grow outward. And you can just start digging around in here And that's about the size we want right there. That's perfect. That's beautiful. This particular one right here, I can see that I'm raising up some roots. Let's get down in there. Not much on this one. Now you want to go deep sometimes because these sweet potatoes, like I said, they grow downward and sometimes they'll be way in there. All right, this one doesn't seem to have formed any bulk. That's all right. The one next to it did. Here we go. You want to be gentle with these sweet potatoes because their skins are very, very tender and fragile. So what I'll do here, where I'm not finding any sweet potatoes in the shallow soil with my hands, I'll go ahead and work my trowel down in there. That's a good seed potato for next year. Don't throw away the little ones. The little ones are great for starting your slips next year. All of these sweet potatoes were grown from slips that I grew last year. Yeah, here's the problem. When you're growing sweet potatoes in a warm climate, you're going to get some tubers. You're going to get some of these potatoes. But you're not going to get a gigantic harvest all at once because, like I said, these don't have the cues that sweet potatoes grown in colder areas get from the weather to kind of shut down production and start packing in the carbs down below. There's a word for that. I forget what it is. It's a botanical term. The leaves begin to turn yellow and die off. I'm not even going to take a stab at what that word is, but that's the process that regular potatoes take to tell the plant to start shutting down production of leaves and packing all the starches into the roots. All right, we're not getting much right here. Let's try another spot. We can loosen up the soil around it without damaging this tuber. There we go. All right. Just loosen up the soil and fish around with your fingers and hands and pull out the goodness. There's a nice one that I kind of scarred right there. That'll heal up as we cure it. Don't have to worry about that too much. Inevitably, you're going to leave some of these sweet potatoes accidentally behind. Probably not going to get them all. And that will bring you volunteers. Nice Murasaki purple. Those are delicious. They've got a nice sweet white flesh. And very nice, very mellow. I've also planted this tupperware with slips. And they have also migrated down into my lawn here. So I'm pretty sure there's going to be sweet potatoes coming up here voluntarily. Make sure there are no snakes down in here. And what I've got down in here, how you doing, Buck? Good boy. Let me show you this. When you've got soil that's not, when you have soil that's not compacted, you can just pull them out like this. And you see what I mean when I say they grow down. So there we've got some nice little sweet potatoes. These are spring onions from last year. They're looking a little worse for wear. We'll just take those out. I'm going to go through here and make sure we're not missing anything. Come on, Buck. Working over here. Look at that. Look at that. What I want to see. Like I said, dig down deep because they're there. They like to go deep in this soft soil. Now I know I've got some over here, and I think these are the yeah, there's a nice one right there. I think there's some yellow ones right here. I didn't have many slips from this one. This was my favorite one. Yeah. I'm glad to have those. I can make some more slips from these. This is actually my favorite of all the sweet potato varieties I've grown, and I forgot what it's called. But you can see it's a nice yellow color. It's golden on the inside as well. See if we got any more. I think that's it. Look at that. You can't complain about that. All right. Again, be very careful with these sweet potatoes when you pull them out. The skins are very fragile until they get cured. And there's our harvest. Not a lot. 15 pounds maybe. But yeah. Here's what we could have done. Well, now we have our sweet potatoes harvested. And somebody's most likely going to ask, couldn't I leave my sweet potatoes in the ground until we approach our average first frost date? Yes, I could have, but I need that bed for the next crop. That's why I didn't get as much as I could have. If I leave them in the ground, all those little ones that we pulled up would have a chance to bulk up a little bit more. And so yes, you can just leave them in. Again, in a warm climate where it doesn't freeze too often, like Zone 9A on the Texas coast, if you leave them in the ground and a freeze does come, the foliage is all going to die back, but those tubers down there will pop up as soon as the warm weather returns. And you can treat these like a perennial. But once again, I need my bed. Got to plant some peas over there. All of the root systems that we left behind, even though I pulled out a lot of it, that's going to stay in the ground and probably give me volunteer sweet potatoes over there in the spring, if I want them to, if I let them. If you don't want it, just pull them up as you see them. But yeah, I'm happy. I got food on the table now, and these sweet potatoes, we're going to cure them. What you have to do with a sweet potato, if you just eat it now, it's going to be all starch and not too much sweet. What you want to do is give them at least 2 to 3 weeks sitting in a humid environment if you can, sitting in about 70 to 85 degrees. And my garage right now is perfect for that. We live in a humid environment. My garage warms up in the afternoons. But I have just let them sit in the garage through the winter, and they cured up just fine. They'll store for months and months. So this is a good insurance food, and I'm pretty happy with my harvest. So what happens when the sweet potato cures is that the sugars form down inside that sweet potato and make it sweet. Also, the skin hardens up, and it's no longer quite as fragile. See how fragile that skin is? It just kind of scrapes right off. This one is not fully cured. This is one I stuck the fork through. Now don't worry, this will scar over. This tissue that I've exposed here with my fork, that will scar over as it cures. And I can eat what's in here, or I can use this for seed stock next year. But unfortunately, I hit that one with a fork. But let them cure, and they'll toughen up for you. When the skins have become that leathery, potatoey skin, you know it's cured. You can eat it then. So, well, there we have sweet potatoes. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. And if you have any questions about the way I'm growing my sweet potatoes and why I didn't wait for them to get bigger, leave a comment. I always love to answer your comments, and if I don't answer it, at least I read every single one of them. So, hey, listen, if you're gonna grow a spring garden in the coming year, now's the time to start thinking about seeds, to start thinking about planning your spring garden, what you're going to grow, the things you like to eat. And if you're planting your garden now, check out Seeds for Generations. They are linked below. If you use that link, you'll be helping out this channel, and you'll be supporting a wonderful family-run business, and I vouch for their seeds. So, Seeds for Generations, check them out below. Thanks for joining me today on Black Gumbo Southern Gardening. I hope you have happy gardening. Follow us on social media. Subscribe if you haven't already done so, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.